Jesus did a big no-no right now in coronavirus time. He breathed on people, and it does not specify whether or not he was wearing a mask, so I think we can assume he wasn't. But this breath, this ruah, the breath of God, he breathed on them. The Holy Spirit floods this place that they are in. It floods their hearts, and it continues to flood the church as we know it today. So what do we do with all of this? Wisdom, understanding, counsel, knowledge, fortitude, piety, fear of the Lord. These are the gifts of the Spirit, and we should be continually asking for them and opening our eyes to the ways God has given them to us. Most importantly, I think we have to ask the Holy Spirit to teach us to pray, because prayer is the breath of a Christian. The Spirit of God is the breath that empowers the church, right? When Jesus breathed on the apostles, it's the very breath of God that empowers and emboldens and enlivens the church to be able to do all the things the church is called to do. And it's the breath of prayer that does all those same things for the individual person. So without the breath of the Spirit, the church could not be alive and thriving. But similarly, without the breath of prayer, the Christian cannot be alive and thriving. Our human body breathes through inhaling and exhaling. But as a Christian, our soul breathes through prayer. See, what we're talking about here is living in the Spirit, which is so much easier to say and to talk about than it is to really do. But we can know if we're operating in those gifts because they come along with fruits, and the fruits will show themselves. You know, I remember I was a youth minister in Atlanta working in a parish, helping with a confirmation program, and we had a girl show up the day of confirmation who hadn't done any of the other requirements. She hadn't attended any of the classes or anything like that. She said she didn't even know about any of the other requirements, and she really wanted to be confirmed. So, I was talking to the volunteers, and there was a little bit of disagreement among the team because some people were like, she hasn't met any of the requirements. It wouldn't be fair to the other kids to let her be confirmed. And other people were saying, well, it's not really up to us to kind of withhold it from her, but maybe we'll put together a quick quiz of 10 questions about the faith, and if she gets above a 70%, we'll confirm her, and it just was, all these ideas were being thrown around, and I really didn't know what to do. So I called my father-in-law, who's a really, really smart guy, who's just really deep and insightful and very well educated. And he said, don't worry about testing her knowledge about the faith. Talk to her about the gifts and the fruits of the Holy Spirit. And if she desires those things from the Lord, then she's ready. Then she should be confirmed. He said, talk to her about them. So I did. I pulled her aside like 20 minutes before the Mass started. I said, hey, do you want fortitude? Do you want understanding? Do you want to grow in wisdom and knowledge and piety and fear of the Lord? And I explained to her what each of those were. I said, do you want the Holy Spirit to flood your life in a way that brings joy and love and peace and patience and kindness and gentleness and self-control and goodness and faithfulness and all those things? And I just kind of laid them out for her, and she said, yes, I want those. I want those more than anything. And that day she was confirmed. And I have to tell you, as proud as I was of this system we had put together and this programming and all this work that we had everybody do, I don't know if anybody in that church that day approached that Mass and that sacrament with as much excitement and openness as she did that day. Just having the gifts of the Spirit and the fruits of the Spirit broken open before her, and having in her heart a burning desire for them. Now, you could argue back and forth about whether or not that was the right call and what should and shouldn't be required for confirmation, and that was my old job. I'm not interested in the argument. But I do know in that moment I learned something really profound about what it is to live this faith. G.K. Chesterton famously said, let your religion be less of a theory and more of a love affair. Thanks be to God for what we celebrated yesterday at Mass, Pentecost, right? The birthday of the church, the breath of God that fills us and sends us out on mission. Everyone knows that saying, that song, they will know we are Christians by our love. But how will we know we're Christians? How can we even examine our own life and know that we're walking in the ways of the Lord? Well, I think we can examine our lives and say, are we operating in wisdom? Are we operating in strength and fortitude and in knowledge and understanding and fear of the Lord and piety? As we look at the fruit of our life and as we look at the trails of relationships and conversations and memories that we leave in our past, do we see joy? Do we see love and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and self-control? Are we operating in those things? How will we know we're Christians? By the fruits. I want to close with a quote that I found as I was reading about this great Feast of Pentecost by St. Oscar Romero. It will always be Pentecost in the church. provided the church lets the beauty of the Holy Spirit shine forth from her countenance. What's countenance? Face, facial expression, right? So for many people, what is the face or facial expression of the church? It's me, it's you. For a lot of people, we're the only face of the church anyone's going to see. So I'll start over. It will always be Pentecost in the church. It doesn't have to be just one day. It doesn't have to just be one time of year we think about it or celebrate it. Every day, it'll always be Pentecost in the church, provided the church lets the beauty of the Holy Spirit shine forth from her countenance. When the church ceases to let her strength rest on the power from above, which Christ promised her and which he gave her on that day, Pentecost, and when the church leans rather on the weak forces of the power or wealth of this earth, then the church ceases to be newsworthy. The church will be fair to see, perennially young, attractive in every age, as long as she is faithful to the Spirit that floods her and she reflects that Spirit through her communities, through her pastors, through her very life.